This lesson is entitled Tools for Auditing Formulas, and we're in Workbook, Tips and Tricks, and we're currently on the Auditing Tools Worksheet tab. When working in Excel, it's not only important to know which cells are data and which ones are actually formulas, it's also important to know the relationship between the two. In other words, on this cell here, B4, it would be not only important to know that that's not a formula, it's just the number 56, and I can see that up here in my formula bar. But it might also be very important to know how this number affects other formulas in our Excel worksheet. In other words, if I was to change this number here in B4, which other numbers would change? Which other numbers would be affected because they're formulas that are dependent on B4? So this concept is called dependency, and we're going to take a look at that first. So we want to find what they're dependent on, or what's dependent on it. So I have over here another cell that's marked. It's over here D14. And if I click on it, I can see up here that sure enough, B4 right here with dollar signs in front of it showing that it's an absolute reference, meaning it won't change. So B4 is definitely part of getting this number. So if I was to change B4 and make that 55 instead of 56 and hit enter, we should see D14 change because it's dependent on that number up here, B4 absolute value. Finding other dependents would be quite difficult. I just kind of stumbled on that one, but if I click around, I'm literally clicking, looking for references of B4, and this is going to be impossible to do. I think you can imagine how hard that would be as I click around. Well, luckily there is a tool for that. We just simply select B4, go up to my Formulas tab, and over here in my Formula Auditing group, we have Trace Dependents. And if I hover over that, you can see it says Show Arrows that indicate which cells are affected by the value of the currently selected cell. And there's also a shortcut, Control Right Bracket. Well, let's give that a try. Make sure that's selected, the one we're interested in, Trace Dependents, and with one click I can see absolutely I was right here about my D14, but also over here on B8 and E6 and G6 they're also affected. But watch this, I'm going to click one more time, and now we take it to the next level. So not only over here in D14 is it dependent on our B4, but these are also dependent on our D14. So I can click it again and again and one more time. At the very end there we heard a little bring sound, and that was telling us that we've got to the very end, that there isn't any more. This can be very useful. I want to point out something else that looks a little different than all the other arrows, and it's a dotted line. So it's a dotted arrow right here. This is quite tricky, but in order to see what it is, you need to actually double click right on that dotted arrow. So I'm going to double click, and it opens up a Go To dialog box, and it's actually showing us that in our same workbook there is a different worksheet, and in this different worksheet there is an address, and if I click on it and say OK, it'll actually take me right there. So here I am in this other workbook over here called Update Values, and here's the address. It was A13, and it's showing us that this is a dependent that's not on the worksheet. Let's go all the way back to our second tab, Auditing Tools, to get us back here again. So you can see how important this is. There is no amount of effort that you could take to be able to identify all of these in even a single day, I don't think. It would just be so overwhelming. But with this tool, we can quickly find out what is connected to what. Now let's kind of take a look at the opposite of this. So let's get rid of these arrows. We want to make sure we're in our formula tabs, and we can come over here to remove arrows. One click to get rid of them all. Now I'm going to do the opposite. We're going to come down here to total, and so we have somewhat of a grand total, but we want to find out everything that is a precedent to this grand total. So I click on it once, and we click trace precedence, and we can see it's getting its total up here. From L12, I'm going to click it again, and again, and again, and again, and now finally we hear our little tone telling us we're at the end. So you can see everywhere it's looking in order to get that total. So that's trace precedence. I'm going to click on remove arrows. And just a reminder, we can also use that shortcut. Let's go back here as a reminder again on our shortcut. Control right bracket to navigate to dependence of the selected cell. So I can select that cell. We want to find its dependence. I do control right bracket, and what we see is they all become highlighted. There's no arrows, they're highlighted, and this would allow me to actually color code them, because why they're highlighted, I could say make them blue or green, or I could change the font color because they're currently selected. If I just simply click away, they're no longer selected because that was just a selection. And I can also click my control right bracket several times, and just like before, it'll take me to the next level and the next level and the next level. So that's a little different, isn't it, than simply choosing trace precedence and trace dependence, but it's another option that's available to you. Control left or right bracket for dependence or precedence